this case, we're talking with Portland police. We're actually talking with other FBI field offices because it was seen in multiple areas on the internet via email and other spaces.
The FBI is now investigating after they say widespread threats were made against a few people in Portland via email. Some local businesses also received the disturbing messages. Katu's Eric Mock joins us live from the Rose City Park neighborhood now. And Eric, you spoke with a business that got one of these emails.
Yeah, Laurelwood Brew Pub here across the street. Staff told me that when they got these emails, they immediately called police because of the violent nature of the content in these messages. Now, of course, trying to figure out who sent these messages, though, presents a lot of challenges to law enforcement.
We take threats of violence, be they transmitted via email, text, or social media, quite seriously, and knowing the fear that it can cause in the community.
Special agent in charge of the Oregon FBI office, Kieran Ramsey, says the FBI receives reports of thousands of threats annually. But he says the email threats received by Portland businesses like Laurelwood Brew Pub are especially troubling. Staff there described the emails as calls to violence. Ramsey says the emails contain specific threats of violence against some individuals in the Portland metro area. And he says agents and police have contacted the people targeted.
And at this point, those answers have generally been negative. They are not aware of this or involved in this, thankfully.
But their investigation at this point has not led to any arrests. Ramsey says whoever's doing this is using a common tactic of the digital age.
Do it under a false alias or a pseudonym or even under the name of somebody else that really has nothing to do with it is quite commonplace.
Ramsey says they've even contacted people with email addresses the threat maker has used, only to find out that they had no idea that threats had been sent from their email address. Ramsey says they're still in the process of determining whether these threats are credible.
Fentanyl trafficking has grown into a top concern for law enforcement agencies, and officers continue to share the message that even one pill can be fatal. Enough fentanyl to kill millions was found here in Oregon in the past few weeks.
Between Eugene PD's bus that they had, I think they had 18 pounds. We got a 14.5 pound seizure at the very end of September, and then another one with 507 grams of pills containing fentanyl.
The Oregon State Police Captain, Stephanie Bigman, echoes a message we've heard over and over again. Fentanyl is extremely dangerous. Just 2 milligrams, roughly the same weight as a mosquito, is considered a lethal dose.
The DEA is stating that 42% of the pills that they tested for fentanyl contained that 2 milligrams of fentanyl, that deadly amount. People just would not get on a plane if it had a 42% chance of crashing.
Health officials say naloxone, sold under the brand name Narcan, among others, remains the go-to medication to save someone's life if they're exposed to fentanyl or suffer an overdose. Pharmacist Anthony Tran explains what makes Narcan so effective.
In an opioid emergency, the receptors in your body that get triggered by the opioids are saturated. Medications like naloxone basically kick them off those receptors, essentially come back from an overdose.
Commissioner's plea: approve the good, reject the bad, and address the ugly.
Happening right now, the debate over Mayor Wheeler's homelessness proposal continues. Hundreds of Portlanders are testifying tonight. The testimonies are expected to last for hours more. Good evening and thanks for joining us for K2 News at 6 o'clock. I'm Deborah Knapp.
And I'm Steve Dunn. Part of Wheeler's plan includes banning unsanctioned housing and building 20,000 new affordable housing units in the coming decade. We want to get right to K2's Genevieve Rayon, who's been sitting in the council meeting for hours listening to testimony. And Genevieve, you just stepped out of there. We've got hours more to go.
Yeah, Steve, so far we've heard from about a third of the roughly 220 people signed up to testify, and this has been going on for 3 hours, so we have a significant amount of time left for this meeting. Within the last hour, though, we did hear from one woman who is currently houseless. She explained her concerns about the potential ban on unsanctioned housing because she says there are not enough shelters in place right now. She says she cannot get into a shelter, so she worries about a ban on unsanctioned housing, saying you can't ban something if there are not resources in place to help help those in need. She also expressed concerns about potentially living in a campus with up to 500 other homeless people. That is also a part of Mayor Ted Wheeler's plan. On the other side of things, we heard from several business owners. One woman expressed what she has to deal with in her business in Hollywood.
Recently, I had a woman camped out 3 to 4 feet away from my store, defecating. Oh, by the way, I have photos. Can somebody put photo 1 up? Yes, her. Defecating, urinating, cleaning herself right in front of my store. It's not good for business. I made numerous telephone calls trying to get somebody to either get her help. She was clearly in crisis. Eventually, in the evening, somebody brought her a tent. She takes it around the corner, pitches it in front of our building. And if you could put up slide number 2, this guy decides he's going to masturbate on her tent.
Now, we also heard from the Urban League of Portland, who pointed out the concern about how this potential plan would impact BIPOC communities.
A camping ban will disproportionately criminalize Black people who are experiencing homelessness. Black Portlanders are more than twice as likely as their white peers to experience homelessness. Once homeless, they're more impacted by a law enforcement. Black individuals experiencing homelessness were nearly 4 times more likely to be arrested by a Portland police officer than houseless white individuals. A camping ban will undoubtedly lead to an increase in the arrest and criminalization of Black people whose only crime is poverty.